What's happening? How's it going? Happy Friday, everyone. How's it going? Welcome back to another episode of Friday Phil, where we go over everything and anything pop culture related. You name it. That is Marvel, that is DC, that is Star Wars, that is maybe Lord of the Rings if I'm really feeling like it, but not really because I'm not really a Lord of the Rings fan. You get it. You get the idea. Comic books, movies, animation, TV, movie. Yeah, you get it. Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, the whole nine. And I am your host, as you all know, Mr. Phil, aka Unfiltered, aka Philip. Well, here we are again. It is another beautiful Friday. Beautiful being a loose term, I suppose. There's been quite the hubbub regarding some things in the pop culture sphere. As it shows in the thumbnail, we've got some castings to talk about. Joker 2 is bombing something fierce at the box office, and it just might look like Terrifier 3 might overtake it at the box office. More on that later. But it's definitely been a hell of a week. That's for damn sure. Hell, Henry Cavill might even be in a Voltron movie. Not sure how that's going to roll out, but matter of fact, since that's the first thing since I just mentioned that, I guess I can bring that up. Henry Cavill apparently has joined the Voltron movie set by, I believe it's Amazon Studios. It's MGM Studios, sorry, Amazon Prime, but MGM is the studio, I believe, handling the movie. Let's see. There we go. Let's go ahead and share this and break this shit down. Right. All right, where is it? Where's my share screen thing? Here we go. Present. Share screen. And then there we are. Okay. So, speaking of which, there's an ad right there. Almost look like the Amazon thumbnail. Okay, so Henry Cavill to star in Voltron for Amazon MGM exclusive. Rawson Marshall Thurber, the filmmaker behind the Netflix hit Red Notice, is directing the live-action adaptation, which will shoot this fall in Australia. Amazon's MGM Studios' giant robot Voltron movie is getting a Man of Steel. Henry Cavill, the Superman actor and the star of The Witcher, has come aboard to topline the live-action feature based on the mecha anime that Rawson Marshall Thurber is directing. The actor joins Daniel Quinn Toy, the newcomer who impressed the studio and director with his West End work opposite Tom Holland in the leading roll call. Voltron is based on the Japanese sci-fi series Beast King Go Lion and Kikau Kantai Dairuger XV. That's probably 15 if I had to guess, because it looks like Roman numerals. World Events edited and dubbed the series a syndicated show, naming it Voltron Defender of the Universe, which ran in the mid-1980s. The premise centered on 5 young pilots and a battalion named the Robot Lions, which are vehicles that join together to form a mega robot known as Voltron. The plot details for the new version are unclear. Thurber wrote the script with Ellen Shanman. Producing are Todd Lieberman via Hidden Pictures World Events Productions, Bob Koplar, Thurber, and Hobie Films, David Hoberman. Cavill appeared in 2 action thrillers this year, Matthew Vaughn's Argyle, which was not great from what I understand, for Apple Original Films, and Guy Ritchie's The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare for Lionsgate, which was amazing. And of course, he did have a cameo in this summer's Deadpool Wolverine as a grizzled, big, jacked Wolverine variant. The muscular actor reunited with Ritchie for the action thriller In the Gray, which will also star Jake Gyllenhaal and Isaac Gonzalez, and is due to star in Chad Stahelski's long-in-the-works reboot of Highlander, which shoots next year. He is also executive producing a take on the Warhammer 40,000 franchise across all Amazon MGM Studio productions. Cavill is represented by WME and 2 p.m. sharp. Okay, so I am vaguely familiar with this stuff, but I'm not a giant fucking Voltron fan. I mean, I watched it briefly as a kid, but nowhere near like, it just felt like, animated Power Rangers to me, more or less. And, I think the concept is kind of cool. You got 5 teenagers and they're pilots and they pilot these big lion robots. I was like, oh, that's neat. Does it need a live action movie though? I don't know, maybe, but it was cool. I mean, I like Henry Cavill. I'll watch him in anything. I watched him in Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. That was a great movie. Obviously, he's a really great Superman. He was a really great Superman. That trilogy is unmatched as far as comic book films are concerned. And, he's in Man of Uncle. Obviously, he was also in Mission Impossible Fallout as the antagonist opposite Tom Cruise. So, like I said, I'll watch him in anything. I don't know which Voltron cat he's going to pilot. Maybe not at all. Maybe he's the antagonist. I have no idea. But yeah, you know, wherever Henry Cavill goes, I am sure to follow suit and watch, more than likely. Most definitely. Speaking of following suit and going to wherever they will go, whatever they will do, this was also announced the other day. That is, Christopher Nolan sets his next film with Universal, and Matt Damon is set to star. Now, of course, plot details are very, very strict and under wraps, as they tend to be with a Christopher Nolan joint. But this was broken by Deadline, and let's go ahead and take a look at this right now. Christopher Nolan sets next movie at Universal and IMAX for summer of 2026 with Matt Damon eyed 2-star. After sweeping the Oscars with a smash hit Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan looks to be returning to the studio that helped him win those Oscars, and he's bringing along one of his A-list stars to lead the ensemble. Sources tell Deadline that Nolan is returning to Universal for his next film with plans for an IMAX release of July 17th. He really loves that date. And that Matt Damon is in talks to star. The date falls in line with a number of Nolan films that have had similar release dates in the past. Universal has declined to comment. As with any Nolan project, plot details are being kept secret as anything in this town. Those sources say the film is expected to shoot in early 2025. While some believe Nolan might have taken this package to market, Universal always seems like the logical landing spot given the success of Oppenheimer, which grossed $328.9 million at the domestic box office and accumulating $975.6 million worldwide. Brought in a number of accolades as well. The film won 7 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Director, and acting prizes for, of course, Cillian Murphy and one Robert Downey Jr. As for Damon, this will mark the 3rd time he has worked with Nolan, citing Interstellar before Oppenheimer. And Interstellar and Oppenheimer. So this would be his 3rd outing with Christopher Nolan, where Nolan has a knack for repartnering with talents on projects. Damon now joins the likes of Christian Bale and Cillian Murphy, who have worked with Nolan on at least 3 occasions. It looks like this is probably going to attract some pretty solid talent to it too. I mean, what Nolan project doesn't do that, right? Like, name one Christopher Nolan movie that hasn't attracted top tier talent to its project, right? Like, you look at any other project Christopher Nolan has done, and you look at the cast, and it's just nothing short of brilliant people. I mean, Interstellar alone, you had Matthew McConaughey, you had Matt Damon, you had Anne Hathaway, you had the likes of Michael Caine, of course, who was a Nolan regular. And then you get to something like Inception. You've got Leonardo DiCaprio, you've got Tom Hardy, you've got Marion Cotillard, who also played in The Dark Knight Rises. And again, Tom Hardy as well, not really reprising, but re-teaming with Nolan for that. And then you even get to something like Dunkirk, where he's worked with, again, Cillian Murphy, Kenneth Branagh, who also appeared in Tenet. And yeah, like, Nolan attracts top-tier talent. Hell, Robert Downey Jr. was so jazzed to work with Christopher Nolan, he even took a pay cut. He was like, I've already made my millions from the Marvel movies. I don't need any more money. I get the chance to work with Christopher Nolan. That's enough of a payment for me. So, yeah, it's going to be awesome. I think if Christopher Nolan is making a movie, that's a W for cinema and cinema goers. That is a W for movie theaters, no matter what. And yeah, it's going to be an IMAX release, of course. All these other films have been IMAX released, especially Oppenheimer. I did not see it in IMAX, but I've been told that the experience in IMAX is really stellar. Absolutely spectacular. I do not own that movie, unfortunately. You know, money's been tight, but that is one film I definitely need to revisit, is Nolan's Oppenheimer. I do like that one quite a fair bit, even though my favorite Nolan film to date still remains to be the one and only Interstellar, outside of the Dark Knight trilogy, because of course I am a huge Batman fan. But yes, Christopher Nolan, Matt Damon, partnering on Nolan's next movie, shooting for a July 2026 release date. What will this movie be? I don't know. Nolan has made mention of wanting to do some kind of horror-ish movie, something in the horror genre. Maybe it's something like that, or maybe it's something completely unrelated. I don't know. Whatever Christopher Nolan decides to cook, I will probably be there for it, without a doubt. Speaking of people being there, who's here? Who's in the chat? I forgot to say hi to the chat. We got Daryl Taylor. I'm really looking forward to the Lantern series, and it will be a murder mystery set in the Heartland, America. Really don't know why certain fanboys are complaining. Don't like it. Tell James Gunn. I will get to that. I will absolutely address that. But Daryl, thank you again for always tuning into the chat. It's greatly appreciated. Braden, how you doing, man? Good to see you. And Daryl, Superman and Lois, season 4, first 2 episodes, amazing. Lex Luthor is an evil son of a bitch. I don't have that on my agenda to talk about, but you are correct. Superman and Lois did have its season 4 and final season premiere on Monday, 2-episode premiere, and Michael Cudlitz plays one hell of a great Lex Luthor, very much so, very intimidating, very calculating, very cold, very much in the way that I've always... The version of Lex Luthor that Michael Cudlitz is playing is honestly the closest I've seen that comes to, being in line with how I kind of look at Lex Luthor to some extent. Like, he very much reminds me of the Clancy Brown version of Lex Luthor. He's very meticulous. He's very cunning. He's very reserved in his expressions, and he's very much in the know and very much on top of things, much like Clancy Brown's was in the animated series and even in Justice League. So I agree. I think this version of Lex Luthor is definitely one evil SOB, and what he does to Jordan in that second episode is, slight spoilers, heartbreaking for anyone who catches that. I'm actually the star in the new film. No, the fuck you're not. Go back to your room. Superman and Lois season 4 is already out. Yeah, I mean, I wrote a review for the 2-episode premiere of Superman and Lois on Multiverse of Color. You guys can check out the bio. It should be in the YouTube links. It should be in my YouTube channel. If not, just go to multiversecolor.com and my season 2 premiere review should be there. So yeah, if you guys want to read some thoughts I have on that, and I will be reviewing that week to week until the finale airs in a couple weeks. I will be reviewing that show as it progresses. And we got Resident Justice in the chat. Hey man, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Good to see you, RJ. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. What should I talk about next? There's a whole lot of shit that happened this week. I guess before I get into all the DC talk, I can kind of chime in on this really quick because a lot of people are kind of talking about it, and that is Agatha All Along episode 5. Now, oh my god, wow. I know a lot of people have been kind of rocky about Agatha, and it's been talked about. I've seen a lot more positive than negatives about it, definitely. But I will just say, from a personal standpoint, episode 5 was great. Like, it was on the short side, definitely. It could have used a couple more minutes to breathe, but yeah, no, I really like the 5th episode of Agatha All Along. The reveal of, spoilers, of the teen being effectively Billy, who we're all kind of assuming has been the case since they've started, pumping out the show. He is, in fact, the son of Wanda Maximoff. Now the question is, how does that come to be, right? Like, how did he wind up where he wound up? How does he not remember who his mother is? Those are all questions I'm sure are probably going to get answered here in the next 4 episodes, because we are at the halfway point now. We are on 5 of 9. This would effectively be, the mid-season finale, if there were to be a mid-season finale, more or less, in terms of, generic television. But yeah, I'm right there with you, Daryl. I like, from the go, I was like, he's probably Wiccan. He's probably Billy Maximoff or Billy Kaplan. They're probably doing that. And sure enough, by the end of the episode, you see the way he moves his hands, the way Agatha says, "Oh, you were just like your mother." Like, they've made it abundantly. They've pretty much hinted at the idea that this kid is Billy Kaplan from the go. And there are subtle hints from the first 5 episodes that you can kind of pick up on and go, yeah, he's probably the son of Wanda Maximoff. And sure enough, he is. That crown at the end of the episode is fucking dead giveaway. The fact that they ended the episode with a Billie Eilish song and the character's name is probably Billy, pretty dead giveaway. Pretty much a dead giveaway. But this episode was actually really interesting because it's Agatha's trial, and I thought for sure Agatha would be like the last one to have a trial, but no. This was her trial. The episode starts off with them escaping the Salem 7, who are apparently the children of the coven that Agatha all killed way back when. And this trial was kind of like 80s inspired in terms of like an 80s sleepover. They all look very much like they're in 80s workout gear, something to that effect. I'm not really sure. But yeah, it was a fun episode, utilizing a Ouija board, having her being possessed by the ghost of her mother, and then unfortunately losing Alice at the end of the episode. Like, it was a good episode. I enjoyed it. It was a little short, sure, but I liked it. I like Agatha All Along. I never thought I would say that, but the fact that Catherine Hahn is selling it so well is a real high point of this show for me personally. Like I really do love Catherine Hahn and Aubrey Plaza. Oh my God, what the fuck is she doing with this role other than just chewing it up, having fun, and maybe occasionally stealing the spotlight from Catherine Hahn? Like, she is just incredibly good with her character Rio, who I think I might know who she is, but I'm not going to spoil it for anyone who doesn't know. So I'm just going to keep that to myself. But if the spoiler is true, and she does wind up being who the alleged spoilers are positing her as, oh, people are going to be in for a real show. And then there might be some man babies having a fit, but that's kind of par for the course these days. Wanda's returning, and a lot of so-called Marvel fanboys don't even realize it. Maybe she might show back up. I'm kind of wondering if Elizabeth Olsen might have shot something for this, some new footage as, you know, Wanda Maximoff. I'm very curious to see if that character will make an appearance in this show. Very, very curious indeed. Yeah, you know, so Agatha all along, you know, I'm enjoying it. I have nothing really bad to say about it thus far. I mean, it kind of feels like, you know, we're gonna pick off the rest of the coven one by one until it's just Agatha, the teen, and you know, Aubrey Plaza's Rio. I feel like the show is just kind of going in that direction, where we're just gonna pick off the coven one by one until we just get to those three. What happens at the end of the Witch's Road, I have no idea. I don't know that this will have any kind of massive impact on the MCU in any way, shape, or form. I just feel like it's more of a, you know, character placement, you know, type of situation where we're being introduced to, you know, obviously Billy Kaplan, Wiccan, who, and they've in the past, they've done introductory characters in the form of, you know, Young Avengers. You know, you've got Kamala Khan from Miss Marvel, and of course the Marvels. You've got Kate Bishop from Hawkeye. You have the young lad who is Isaiah's grandson, who does become Patriot in the comics. Like, they are making no bones about the fact that they are lightweight setting up a version of the Young Avengers to some extent, if not just outright teasing the fact that these characters do exist in this world. So, I mean, it's not really surprising. It's Marvel, you know, they've exhausted some of their bigger guns in the form of Iron Man and Captain America, and I would even say Thor now. You can't really do too much more with that character outside of just kill him now. But yeah, you know, it kind of makes logical sense that they would kind of move in the direction of a younger team. And of course, you know, there's Cassie Lang from the third Ant-Man movie that no one talks about. Yeah. That's actually one recast that I was kind of bothered by it. I would have really liked to have seen the young actress who played Cassie in Endgame take on the role of Stature, or whatever they decide to call her in the MCU in Ant-Man 3, and then they just recast her with God, what is that actress's name? Catherine Newton, I think. Yeah. Like, I wasn't too huge on that recast personally, but it is what it is. See, I like how Agatha is doing more of the magic and supernatural lore in the MCU. Yeah, I like that it's taking a corner of the MCU that's kind of largely untapped and usually reserved for the likes of, you know, Stephen Strange, and even more recently, Werewolf by Night. Like, we're getting some supernatural wickedness to this grand world that is largely rooted in science and space technology and cosmic entities and things like that. We don't really get too much of the magical stuff in the MCU unless it's pertinent to Doctor Strange. So it is nice to see it in this show, that's for sure. Question is, are they going to go the comic book route where he is reincarnation of Billy Maximoff, or multiverse route where he is a multiverse version of Billy Maximoff? I'm kind of leaning towards the idea that he is a reincarnation from the character Billy Kaplan, and he has the essence or spirit of Billy Maximoff. But I don't know for sure, like, what exactly they are going to do. But I'm intrigued. You know, I'm still watching it. I'm going to watch it until, you know, it airs its 2-part finale on Halloween, or the night before Halloween, whenever the fuck it airs. But yeah, Agatha All Along isn't bad. I'm enjoying it. I'm definitely enjoying it. Fanboys need to chill out. There's no way in hell we're getting X-Men and Fantastic Four right after Endgame. No, even getting the Fantastic Four immediately after Endgame was kind of a stretch. No pun intended. But yeah, like, I understand and kind of echo the sentiment of, like, yeah, you need to kind of lean in on your other big hitters that aren't Iron Man, Captain America, and even to a lesser extent Spider-Man. Like, you do kind of need to use like the likes of Reed Richards and Professor X. But the thing is like, when Fox was acquired by Disney, the Marvel machine was already in its rotation. And, that was at least 4 years after the Fan Four Stick film, which wasn't received well at all. They still had to, let the deal finalize. And then once that was all said and done, they had to take some time and let the ink dry on that merger. Then once that happened, they were free to do whatever they wanted. That's why Dark Phoenix got the shaft in terms of post-production, because they changed so much of that movie to accommodate the merger that had happened between Fox and Disney. Which is unfortunate, because I actually think that despite the fact that Dark Phoenix is literally a train wreck on film, because there is in fact a train wreck that happens in that movie, I actually kind of like it more than Apocalypse to some lesser extent. Not because I think it's great, not because I think it's good, but I think it's just a better made movie than whatever cobbled together mess that Apocalypse was. Because at the very least, you had Simon Kinberg from start to finish, even through the hellish reshoots, putting together what he could put together. Whereas with Apocalypse, Bryan Singer just fucking dipped, and you had every executive producer in their hand working on that movie, trying to make it coherent as possible. And it's just not. It's a fucking mess of a movie. But at least with Dark Phoenix, there's a little bit of coherency there in terms of just vision, director, et cetera, et cetera. And even though like Simon Kinberg totally got shafted on that movie, I have nothing but the strongest sympathies for him. Like, it takes a lot of balls and a lot of respect for a dude to come out and be like, yeah, no, if the movie isn't great, it's my fault. Like, I will own that straight up. Like, we were put in a very tough position, and I did what I could with what I had. And he owned it, and he's no longer on X-Men or anything like that. Even though he did get an EP credit on Deadpool and Wolverine, which I thought was cool. And a matter of fact, I actually saw Simon Kinberg at San Diego. Saw him in line for Star Trek. I was like, oh, I wish I would have said hi and said, hey, Dark Phoenix wasn't as bad as people made it out to be. But that's just my opinion personally. That's just kind of where I'm coming from in terms of that. And then even going back to Agatha, RJ says it's been okay. And yeah, I get it. Like people kind of have their opinions on Agatha. They think it's, great, if not, just fine. And a good friend of mine, Chris Balga, he says, of the 5 episodes, it's been good. It's been fine. It's nothing great. We're certainly not in Secret Invasion territory. That's for damn sure. Did people really think that we would have gotten Fantastic Four and X-Men immediately after Endgame? Oh, people were hoping that was going to happen. Like, I'm actually kind of shocked that Marvel out and said in their D23 announcement in December of 2020 that they were remaking or remastering or rebooting Fantastic Four. I was genuinely kind of shocked that they did that, because I am a Fantastic Four fan. But yeah, I see them having Blade be a part of the Mutant Saga and not the Multiverse Saga. I 100% believe that Blade is going to get shoved out of the Multiverse Saga and put into their Phase 7 plan. I don't at all see that movie happening anytime soon. I think X-Men Last Stand is better than Dark Phoenix. I will politely disagree with you, because X-Men Last Stand is a fucking travesty of a movie. Brett Ratner should not have directed that movie. And honestly, as much as I disagree with Matthew Vaughn on a lot of different things, good on him for walking away after the studio decided to give Halle Berry a fake script just to have her sign on for the film. That was just a big FU to the talent, and him being like, yeah, no, I ain't doing that. I don't blame him. I don't blame him one bit. But having Brett Ratner come on and make that movie that he did, that was a fucking mistake. Oh my God, that was an out and out fucking mistake. Anyway, moving along from that. Last bit about Agatha. Again, I enjoy it. I'm just now noticing I have a typo here for all along. The L is capitalized, but what the fuck ever. I can't really change it now. I enjoy it. I'm not going to say it's the best episode of the bunch so far. There's still fucking 4 more episodes. But, all 5 so far have been good. They've been good, maybe great, but, that's probably largely in part due to the performances of Catherine Hahn, Aubrey Plaza, and Joe Locke, who's playing the teen, who we can assume is Billy Maximoff at this point. But yeah, Agatha's good. I'm enjoying it. Anyway, moving right along. Will Smith and Michael Bay are reuniting, and this was just kind of out of the fucking blue. I was kind of caught off guard by this, honestly. Let's see. All right, let's see. Present, share screen. There we go. All right. So, Will Smith and Michael Bay eyeing reunion on Netflix action pick Fast and Loose. That definitely sounds like a title for a movie Michael Bay would make. Following the success of Bad Boys, Ride or Die, Will Smith is looking to reunite in a big way with the director who helped him launch the Bad Boys franchise nearly 30 years ago. While the deal isn't officially closed, sources tell Deadline that Michael Bay is in final negotiations to direct the Netflix action pick Fast and Loose, which will star Will Smith. Sources add that while a start date isn't official, the film would likely be the next project for both A-listers. Deadline recently broke the news that Smith would be dropping out of the thriller Sugar Bandits, which was potentially lining up as his next project. Once he parted ways with that film, the town was abuzz over what Smith might do next. Fast and Loose follows a man who wakes up in Tijuana with no memories. As he pieces together his past, he learns he's living two lives. One is a crime kingpin, the other is an undercover CIA agent. The script was written by John Hober, Eric Hober, Chris Bremner, and Eric Pearson, who also did the most recent draft of Fantastic Four, funny enough. Kelly McCormick and David Leitch for 87 North produced the pick for Smith, with Westbrook Studios co-president, head of motion pictures John Moan, and Ryan Shimazaki in negotiations to produce for Westbrook and James Lasser. Westbrook was also a producer on Bad Boys Ride or Die. Robert Simmons and Noah Fogelson will exec produce for STX Films. Barry Waldman will also executive produce. I mean, sure, you can add all these names for their executive producing credit. It doesn't really add much more to the story, but whatever. Fast and Loose has been something Smith has been developing for some time following the recent Bad Boys Ride or Die, which grossed $400 million at the worldwide box office. Several projects linked to Smith have gained momentum. The project is the type of major event film Netflix is trying to prioritize, and the idea of reuniting Smith and Bay was just too hard to pass up for all parties. Bay and Smith have ties going back to the original 1995 Bad Boys, which Bay directed and starred Smith and essentially launched both into movie stardom. Smith would become one of the most bankable stars for the next couple of decades, while Bay became the go-to director for any major tentpole. He ultimately took on the Transformers franchise, directing the first 5 films in the series. After Bad Boys 2 in 2003, Smith and Bay stayed in touch over what their next team-up could be. Bay previously helmed the 2019 action thriller Six Underground for Netflix, which produced strong results. His 2022 thriller Ambulance is one of the most played action movies on the streamer. He is rep by Range Media Partners. Okay, so Michael Bay. Look, those Transformers movies after the first one, the last 4 Transformers movies are not great. That said, he went back to his lane. He stayed in the action lane, and he fucking rock socks with Ambulance. Ambulance is, without a doubt, one of the most thrilling films I've seen in a theater in a long fucking time. Like, Michael Bay did his Bayisms with the most amount of restraint I've seen in a fucking long time. And Will Smith, I love Will Smith. I think Will Smith's a great actor. He's been in a lot of shit that I've seen. Like, off the top of my head, Men in Black, King Richard, fucking a whole bunch of other shit. Suicide Squad. Like, this is fucking Will Smith. Everyone knows who fucking Will Smith is. If they're going to reunite for this action thriller for Netflix, more power to them. I know Six Underground got a lot of flack, but like, hey, cool. You know, the movie apparently did well enough for Netflix to be like, fuck you. We got it. BFD, bitches. We don't care about your fucking negative results. We don't care about your negative criticism. We don't give a fuck. We got our money. So when you put names like Michael Bay and Will Smith together, there's clearly going to be some kind of chemistry, some kind of draw from one end or the other. Obviously, you know, Will Smith, I would even say, is not at all feeling any repercussions from slapping Chris Rock now. He's effectively just kind of not fazed by it whatsoever. You have Chris Rock out there being like, yeah, you know, Will Smith slapped the shit out of me. And Will Smith is just like, yeah, I did it. I felt bad a little bit about it, but yeah, it happened. He's not going to the Oscars for like the next 8 years. I don't think he really gives much of a shit. He's still doing his thing. Got a 4th Bad Boys movie made. Wouldn't doubt if they get a second Bright film made. I mean, I don't know. I doubt that, given all the allegations and whatnot against the writer of that movie, whose name shall not be named. But if you're familiar with that movie, you know who wrote that movie, and you're probably just like, nope. But yeah. Anyway. I got Droga in the chat. What's going on, dude? Daryl says the only thing I liked about X-Men Origins was Wolverine. X-Men Origins Wolverine with Sabretooth. I love you, Daryl, but I can't agree with that. I am not a fan of the Liev Schreiber Sabretooth at all. Braden, I just want to see Blade. I don't care if it's in the multiverse saga. Yeah, I agree. And you know what? I even said something funny in a chat the other day. I said, watch Mahershala Ali just drop out of the movie. I was like, just get Will Smith and let him play Blade. Fuck it, why not? Like, let Will Smith be Blade. That way, maybe you can cast Chris Rock as a vampire and you can slap the shit out of him again. Okay, that was too much. That was bad. The big L for all the people who hate on Agatha all along. Yes, I agree, Andy. The people who hate on this show are just taking an L after an L because I'm seeing nothing but, positive reinforcement for that show and how good it is doing for everyone involved. And I just can't wait. I mean, I can wait. And it's a nice spooky season time passer. It's a nice, Wednesday evening. What am I going to watch before I go to bed show? It's very much in that vein. Watch people say Batman Brave and the Bold has too many characters in it because they're going to be a bunch of Robins. Yeah, because the Transformers movies already didn't have enough characters in it. There were a bunch of fucking robots, right? No. But like, seriously, the idea of Michael Bay and Will Smith reuniting to work on a movie, I'll take it. I mean, like I said, Ambulance gave me a lot of confidence that I had lost in Michael Bay as a director. I do like that first Transformers movie, even if it's like super schlocky and super just kind of difficult to get through. And then you get to the second one. I can kind of give Revenge of the Fallen a pass. Not a big pass because it kind of fucked my favorite Transformer. Wow, what? Jetfire, there we go. I love Jetfire. Jetfire has always been one of my favorite Transformers because he's a Decepticon turned Autobot. But man, they really screwed the pooch with that character in that movie. And I'm just like, but they do some things in that movie where I was like, okay, this is fine. After Dark of the Moon, they just get fucking unbearable. From Dark of the Moon to Extinction to Last Night, especially Last Night. Last Night has like the biggest cardinal sin of, hey, let's introduce Unicron. Oh, and by the way, Unicron is planet Earth. What the fuck? Whoever signed off on that, get the fuck out. That was the dumbest creative change I have seen in a Transformers movie in a long time. And I haven't even seen Transformers 1, which I've heard is just fucking awesome from what people have been saying. But meh. See, we got the main man with a Lobo profile picture. Robin Schmobbin, when I show up, all the soccer moms are going to shell out another $1 billion. Well, if Jason Momoa plays the main man, I could see that happening for sure. Which Robin do you want to see in Brave and the Bold? I want to see Jason Todd and Tim Drake. Tim Drake always gets sidelined. Well, let's see. I already know I'm getting Damien, which in turn already tells me that Nightwing was Robin at one point. Like I'm guessing Dick Grayson will most likely be in that movie because of characters in Batman sphere, Nightwing is, I would imagine, a top priority character to get on the big screen because he is just the next best Batman, more or less. A lot of people have a lot of love for Dick Grayson. A lot of people see him as Nightwing these days. And given the shirt that I'm wearing, I'll even address it here. Like, was it unfortunate that Dick Grayson was the Robin that died in Zack Snyder's BVS? Yeah, I'll say it. Yeah, it was unfortunate. Sure, no Nightwing. Okay. And, even before that, you had Christopher Nolan's take on Robin, which was Robin John Blake, and everyone hated that. I've warmed up on it over time. And then even before that, you had, Chris O'Donnell and the 2 Schumacher films. Holy Rusted Metal Batman! Hey, at least his Robin suit looked fucking bitchin', okay? His Robin suit looked awesome. I'll just posit that. But no, which Robin do I really want to see? Yeah, I mean, I am of the mind that I would like to see Dick as Nightwing. I would really love to see Tim Drake as the current Robin. And then when Damien comes into the picture, he kind of just goes, okay, well, I'm going to step away and do my own thing. I'm going to take a page out of Dick's book and go be Red Robin or something like that. I don't know. I'm kind of hesitant because I do wonder if Jason Todd and Tim Drake will be in there in some capacity, if they will be mentioned, if they will be alluded to, if they will, again, be even in this in some capacity. I can guarantee you, though, the movie will probably include, of course, Batman, of course, Damian. They're a given. You're probably going to see Dick and Batgirl, probably Barbara, I would have to guess. It'd be cool if it was like Cassandra Cain or Stephanie, or we just do all three of them. Like, fuck it, do all three Batgirls for all I care. But I am a little hesitant about whether or not Jason and Tim might show up, because while Dick remains to be the popular one, I do see a lot of love for both Tim and Jason across the board. But I do feel like since the announcement of that dynamic duo movie that's being done by Swaybox, that gives me a little bit more hope that there will be a Red Hood and possibly a Tim Drake in the Brave and the Bold film. I really fucking hope so, because Tim Drake is like one of my favorite characters in DC. You know, no knock to Jason or Dick, but really, like, I love Tim Drake. I love that Tim Drake is the modern detective of them all. I really do love that he's been through just so much hell and so much creativity just gone through that character since his inception in 1991. Like, he's just such a great character, and he's just been severely underutilized since New 52. And it's kind of a shame, honestly, because prior to New 52, they were putting Tim Drake in a fucking great position. He was on his own. He was Red Robin. Dick was Batman. Damian was Robin. And Tim had taken up the mantle of Red Robin that was briefly held by Jason. And, you know, he was doing his own thing. He was on this investigative journey of trying to figure out whether or not Bruce had really died after Final Crisis. So I really would like to see Tim Drake personally. Will it happen? I don't know. I can't say that for sure. I really fucking hope so. But if it doesn't happen, I can't say I will be too surprised. But personally, yeah, I guess my hope is that I do see Tim Drake. I just want to see Jason Todd as Red Hood in live action. I agree. I want to see him in a movie, not a television show. If you know what I'm referring to, you know what I'm referring to. Braden, I don't really care that Dick Grayson was the Robin who the Joker killed. I'm not like fanboys who complain that Zack Snyder ruined their favorite DC character. Fuck those people. I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm not going to sit here and lambast anyone for being mad at that creative decision, but when you take it to that extent, when you're just like, boo, Zack Snyder, you killed my favorite Robin, where? I'm sorry, I have absolutely zero sympathy for fanboy bitching and crying. That kind of shit is the kind of energy I gave at the end of 2012 with The Dark Knight. Like, I'm over that shit. I grew out of that shit. That shit is just fucking uncool. It's immature. It's honestly even reeking of the same kind of energy that people are giving James Gunn for being like, you fired my Superman. You got rid of Henry Cavill. How dare you, James Gunn, you evil bastard. I mean, I was bitter about it for a minute, but at the same time, it's like, look, same deal with Ben Affleck, same deal with fucking Christian Bale, same deal with Brandon Routh, same deal with all of the people who've encompassed these characters for a number of times. It's never going to be an infinite thing. Like, these people are not going to keep these costumes on forever. So you may as well just accept that things fucking change. Comic book films change. Actors change. This is an inevitable reality. Like, these things are just, again, inevitable. Now, was the way that Henry Cavill's exit handled good? No. I will say no. I have firsthand knowledge of how that interaction went, and I can say with certainty that no, it was not a pretty exit. But I'm in Henry's corner. I'm always going to be in Henry's corner. That dude is my Superman, straight up. I have people who know me also know that I am very critical of James Gunn in certain respects, and that is one instance where I will go, you could have handled that better and you did not. But hey, that's fucking the nature of the beast that is Hollywood. And I as much as I would have loved to have been in that business from a professional standpoint, I'm just not. I can only just posit my opinions as a fan at this point. You know, I've grown out of the whole, you know, boo, it's not like the comic stage of my fandom, and I just take things as they are. But again, like, I have to kind of give Gunn the benefit of the doubt with his universe, because dude is being allowed the creativity that Zack Snyder was denied, and now he's getting treated in a similar fashion that Zack Snyder did before Zack Snyder could even get his universe off the ground. So Time will tell. We will see. But I do like that DC Studios is its own autonomous thing. Warner Brothers Pictures is not at all seeing any oversight over it, despite what people may still think. It's not happening. I'm sorry. Like, you can bitch, moan, and groan all you fucking want about, oh, Warner Brothers is going to fuck this up. Warner Brothers has fucking nothing to, Warner Brothers Pictures, to be more specific, has fuck all to do with DC Studios. Gunn has made that clear within the last week at least twice. But hey, you know, people still want to believe that Warner Brothers is going to fuck this whole thing up. But anyway. All right, I guess we can move into the big news of the week. That is being DC Studios and all this lovely, lovely casting that has happened on Wednesday. But actually, yeah, before that, I'm gonna get into this real quick. So James Gunn actually revealed, and this is kind of pertinent to the casting of it, but not so much to the Green Lantern stuff. I will touch on that in a minute. But this is something I actually found kind of intriguing. Go ahead and pull this up here. All right, share screen. There we go. All right, let's see. So James Gunn was asked a question regarding his, let's see, what comics or arcs inspire your Lex Luthor depiction in your upcoming Superman movie? And James Gunn responded with, God, there are so many. Lex is one of my favorites. He works on so many levels, and it's been a joy bringing him to the screen with the incredible Nicholas Hoult. Some of the influences were, of course, All-Star Superman, Azarella's Luthor, and the reckless scientific genius from the 1950s and 60s. So that's cool. And this is on Instagram, not Threads, obviously. Well, he answered the thing on Threads, but this was an Instagram post from James Gunn that he had decided to share. Now, look, I'm very peculiar about my Lex Luthors. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier in the show, I'm really digging what Michael Cudlitz did with Superman and Lois in the first couple episodes of season 4, and again at the end of season 3. I think his version of Lex Luthor is about as close as you're going to get to like a Clancy Brown Lex Luthor. But it sounds like this version of Lex will be kind of a happy cross between, you know, you've got your bald, crazy Lex Luthor, who's kind of a scientist, but also one who's just one step ahead of everybody. I think of all of this, I've really only read All-Star Superman. So I have literally no frame of reference for Azarella's Luthor, as well as the 1950s and 60s version of the character as well, when he was like a wacky scientist. But, you know, that does kind of fall into James Gunn's wheelhouse of, you know, having kooky, wacky characters pop up in his movies. Matter of fact, I wouldn't at all be shocked if Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor goes, Miss Tessmacher! You know, he does it in that really extravagant, extra kind of way. Really won't be surprised by that. Matter of fact, I'm kind of, if that happens, here is going to be my initial response to that.
God damn it!
Yep, it's going to be a god damn it, because I don't really need him to yell like Miss Tessmacher. I don't really need that, but if it wouldn't at all surprise me if it does happen. But, you know, I just thought it was cool that he's, you know, he's kind of making the rounds and letting people know, like, you know, this is the take of Lex. This is what is inspiring my take of Lex. And, you know, I like Lex Luthor. He's a great villain. Personally, he's Superman's arch nemesis, and I have no qualms with using him. Okay, let me rephrase that. I don't really have a problem with him being overused in the same way that the Joker is an overused Batman villain. But at the same time, like, Lex Luthor has had like 6 different movie appearances. Like, can we please get like a Parasite or a Brainiac or like a Metallo, a Bizarro? Can we get one of them in a Superman movie for once? That would be exquisite. At least with Batman v Superman, there was Lex Luthor and Doomsday. And then in the Snyder cut of Justice League, you had fucking Darkseid and Steppenwolf. Lex Luthor there at the end with Deathstroke forming the Injustice League. Like, at least that felt vastly different than, oh, he's a fucking, you know, acreage tycoon, a fucking, you know, billionaire who just wants a bunch of land. Like, it was a nice departure from that shit. I'll say that much. But I really do hope that this version of Lex Luthor is not a fucking real estate mogul. I don't need more real estate from Lex Luthor. No. Otis Sizemore is going to be in the movie. Like we will see Otis. That much is confirmed. Like there will be a version of Otis in that movie. So, you know, prepare thyself. It is going to happen. Anyway, speaking of just keeping in the DC realm, this is really the kind of big thing that I've been wanting to chat about, and that is Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart castings have been officially confirmed. Will be played by Kyle Chandler and, of course, Aaron Pierre. Now, the thing is what's interesting is that this was the first one announced, ironically enough, as being confirmed was one Aaron Pierre, and that was by James Gunn on his on his Threads account. Let me go ahead and pull that up. Let's see. Let's see. Where the fuck is it? There we go. Let's see. Yeah. And here's the first one. All right. So, God, my computer's being kind of slow today. All right. There we are. Okay. Welcome to DC, Aaron Pierre. After a long and grueling series of auditions, I am absolutely sure we found an incredible Jon Stewart. I can confirm this because let me tell you something, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. Rebel Ridge is the movie you need to watch on Netflix, and it's purely for this man's casting. Aaron Pierre plays a fucking ex-Marine in that movie, and it is just so good. Like, I literally clapped my hands at work when I saw this news, and I went, fuck yes! This is, without a doubt, the best casting in James Gunn's DCU to date. Without a question. Aaron Pierre is literally the perfect fucking choice for my favorite Green Lantern, Jon Stewart. This could not have been a more perfect fucking casting. This is so good. Oh my God, I cannot wait to see Aaron Pierre play the role of Jon Stewart in this show, Lanterns. I am so legitimately happy that Aaron Pierre got this role. He is known for, obviously, as I mentioned, Rebel Ridge, but he was also Dev M in Krypton, so this is, in another case, a DC legacy casting as well. But seriously, watch him in Rebel Ridge, and you will go, yeah, this guy's Jon Stewart, without a fucking doubt, straight up. And I love that Gunn came out and announced this casting because check this shit out, everybody. This is going to be real fun. This is going to be real funny. Because this shit had me fucking rolling. This shit had me fucking rolling. Oh my God. Okay, here we go. So just a day before the casting of Aaron Pierre being confirmed, there was this bullshit right here. So this is not DC News giving the bullshit, but the source in which it came from is always bullshit. So DC Film News on Tuesday said, Stephen James is reportedly the frontrunner for the role of Jon Stewart in the Lantern series. James Gunn, showrunner Chris Money, Damon Lindelof, Tom King are leaning towards James. No offer has been made. Source, The Insider. So when I saw this news, there were two things that came to mind. The first one was this clip.
You lying sleaze. You want to rethink that answer?
Jeff Snyder, you lying sleaze. Because James Gunn was asked about this, and he goes, there was no truth to that rumor at all. Bam! Slap the fuck down. Sit the fuck down. You were fucking wrong, buddy. Pulling that Scooper Madness shit out your ass. Fuck off, Jeff Snyder. You were fucking wrong. And I love it. I love it when that dude gets proven wrong. Because it's just so fucking funny. So funny. It just makes me...
You probably shouldn't laugh anymore.
I love watching Jeff Snyder get proven wrong. Because that asshole is just so pertinent on trying to remain relevant and put shit out when it comes to DC news and acts like he's got the in and acts like he knows all and acts like he's got the fucking scoop on shit. He doesn't know shit. He knows fuck all about DC. He's not in there. He's not in the room with everyone in the DC brain trust. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. And clearly he's getting fed some bullshit information. And I love it. I love it when this dude gets fucking just bad info, because then instead of taking the L, he just fucking doubles down on it and acts like he's fucking right. I'm like, dude, go ahead, make an ass out of yourself. And while you're at it, why don't you continue posting fucking half naked selfies of yourself on X? Granted, people sent me that. I don't have a fucking Twitter account, but when my buddy Dave and Axel sent me this photo of this dude trying to get fucking chicks on X, I was like, wow, could you be any more of a pathetic sleaze, you lying fuck? Oh my God. Jeff Snyder, I love it when you get proven wrong. As much as I hate Scooper Madness, please, by all means, continue to put the bullshit out there, because I just love it when you get proven wrong, my guy. Just fuck me. It's just too funny. He and My Time to Shine are full of bull. Yes, they are. And here's a funny thing, Daryl. Thank you for reminding me of this. My Time to Shine, hello, I actually posited another rumor in which they're allegedly looking for a middle-aged Batman for the DCU, and James Gunn just responded with one word, and that word was bullshit. Effectively rendering, and that's the thing. You just can't take the words of these guys, because all they are,
Maybe the problem is the fuck puppet delivering.
Oh, yeah.
they're fuck puppets. That's all they are. They're absolute fuck puppets with their own hands inserted up their asshole cavity, and they're just fucking spewing this shit, and they act like they know what the fuck is up, and they don't know fucking shit from their ass. They're full of it. They should not be believed. They should not be tolerated. They should not be followed, and yet somehow they have a following. They make their following on fucking bullshit. And then in the 5% of the time they get it right, it's like, wow, cool, thanks. You're an asshole. You just spoiled a nice surprise. Congratulations. You're an asswipe. Anyway, no. The whole idea of like, oh, they're looking for a middle-aged Batman. What the fuck? Really? How many times is James Gunn going to have to come out and, swat down this Batman casting rumor? Because it happens literally every month. Like at least once a month, there are people trying to peddle this Batman scoop of who's getting cast as Batman. And James Gunn's just like, dude, we're not fucking casting for Batman right now. I don't know why the fuck we're doing this. Like this is bullshit. This is all total fucking bullshit. So I don't get it. I don't get it. I refuse to get it. I'm not at all positing anyone for Batman. I will just say that in the event that Glenn Powell gets cast as Batman, I'll just laugh my ass off. I will just absolutely laugh my fucking ass off. Because if they make Batman like, 35-ish, maybe between 35 and 40, that's still an accurate age to have like a 10, maybe a 15-year-old Damian Wayne. Because if you start Batman off in his like early 20s, he could have easily rented Natalia by that point, and she could have seduced him. They could have, had their child, and she could have kept it away from him for a good decade. And in that time, he takes under his wing a Dick Grayson, a Jason Todd, maybe a Tim Drake. I don't know. But like, yeah, you can have Batman be like 35, 40, and Damian be like 10 years old. It's really not out of the realm of possibility. I really don't get why people are assuming that Batman's going to be like 45 in Brave and the Bold. That's quite the assumption to make. Daryl says, plus Matt Reeves is not putting his Batman in the DCU. So God, so sick of hearing that. Me too. I'm so sick to death of that dumbass rumor. I'm sick and fucking tired of it. I don't need to see Robert Pattinson's Batman next to David Corenswet's Superman. That already looks goofy enough with these shitty Photoshops that are going around. But no. Keep Matt Reeves' universe 100% wholly separate from whatever the fuck James Gunn is doing. There does not need to be some, none of this marriage bullshit between the two universes. No, keep them fucking separate. No need for it at all, like whatsoever. There does not need to be any of that. Just keep it all squared away in one universe here, one universe there. It ain't rocket science. It ain't rocket science. Anyway, speaking of other universes, actually, I'll stay in the DCU real quick before I go into the last thing, but this is also another thing that James Gunn teased is Apache Chief in Peacemaker Season 2. Now, Gunn, Mr. James Gunn, Jimmy Guns, cryptically always likes to tease stuff for his projects. And this was one of those things. This right here. Now, let's see. Who might this be? Now, clearly that is a Native American looking character sitting in front of a fire in a dark lit space in the woods, or what seems to be a woodage, foliage type of area. I don't know, guys. Who is it? My money is on Apache Chief from Super Friends. That's my guess, personally. And James Gunn is 100% known, again, for these kooky, wacky, off-the-wall fucking characters appearing in his projects. And we already know that Peacemaker Season 2 is going to include the likes of one Rick Flag Sr., who's not necessarily a kooky character, but, the show's about a dude who wears a fucking metal helmet that looks like a toilet bowl. Like, you can't get any more kookier than that, right? So, I don't know. I don't know what exactly is going to happen in Peacemaker Season 2. Daryl says, Scalp Hunter. Okay. I can dig it. I'm down with that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know who that character is or what the functionality will be once Peacemaker Season 2 comes out. But, if it's Apache Chief, my young Super Friends loving self will probably be pretty happy. I'll be okay with that shit. Definitely. You know what everyone's not happy with? Well, one person's probably happy with it, but I know a lot of people ain't happy about this. That's Joker 2 bombing with a $37 million box office opening, right? Hot fuck. Oh my God. Like, what the fuck? This was just not good at all. Oh, the wrong one. Okay. Stop screen. There we go. All right. Okay. So I saw Dave talk about this on his Monday Film Junkie stream, but I kind of want to talk about it as well. Why no one will get fired over Joker Folie à Deux. It's a huge disaster, but what is the fallout? Asked one source after the sequel to the $1 billion hit bombs at the box office and was rejected by critics and audiences alike. When Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi took over as co-hosts of Warner Brothers Movie Studio in early June of 21, one of the first decisions they made was to move forward with the sequel to Joker, the Oscar-winning billion-dollar hit that helped redefine the heights a comic book movie could reach. Virtually all the key deals were already put in place by their predecessor, Toby Emmerich, with A-list director Todd Phillips and star Joaquin Phoenix getting $20 million paydays and the film landing a nice, rich net budget of $190 million, with the first film costing $55 million. Phillips is a huge asset for Warner's, his home studio. One small outstanding matter was Lady Gaga's perk package. Within weeks, the papers were signed. Her pay was $12 million, and she officially joined Joker Folie à Deux. Abdi and DeLuca could have said no to making the film, but they would have been the laughingstocks of Hollywood, considering the astonishing success of Joker and its record-shattering ride at the global box office, where it ranked as the top-grossing R-rated film of all time until Deadpool and Wolverine came along. But over the October 4th to 6th weekend, everyone at Warner's, including the executive duo, were left reeling as the Folie à Deux collapsed in its box office debut with a $37.8 million domestic opening weekend after becoming the first comic book movie in history to receive a D cinema score. Phillips, according to one source, spent the weekend in seclusion on a ranch property he owns. Domestically, Folie à Deux opened well behind DC 2023's The Flash, $55 million, and Marvel Studios' The Marvels, $46.1 million, both of which were major bombs. It also came in behind Sony's relatively inexpensive Morbius. I feel like that movie was actually a lot more expensive than this article is making it out to be. Quote, "It is complete audience rejection," says one source close to the film. Overseas, Folie à Deux came in an estimated $81 million, in line with expectations, but still notably behind the first film. While it is not the lowest North American opening for a pick based on a DC character, Joker Folie à Deux is a major stumble. Yet numerous sources tell a THR there's no studio head in Hollywood, save perhaps for Sony's Tom Rothman, who would have turned down making a sequel to a film that was both commercial and critical hit. To boot, Abdi and DeLuca were under orders by Warner Brothers Discovery chief David Zaslav to fill a bare cupboard after the studio's Project Popcorn disaster, which alienated talent by sending its entire 2021 slate day and date to streaming services to Max. Zaslav is also keen to exploit the company's IP more fully. Quote, "It is a collective failure, but it was right to make this movie," says one top veteran producer and financer, which points out that Phillips is a brilliant director who had made Warner billions between the first Joker and the Hangover films. Still, observers wondered how DeLuca and Abdy could have presided over a film that veered so far off course from what audiences wanted or expected. Well, at that point, I don't really know what you want out of the audience, because their expectations should maybe be considered. But at the same time, it's like, dude got creative control over what movie he wanted to make. And that's what they go into in the article here. One answer, perhaps, Phillips was given an extraordinary level of autonomy and final cut. There was no test screening, though insiders say this was a mutual decision between the filmmaker and Warner's in order to preserve spoilers. That decision does not stretch credulity, as the film does not have a particularly spoiler-heavy plot, and even spoilerific moments like Marvel Studios' Avengers Endgame had multiple test screenings. For the first Joker, former DC Films president Walter Hamada worked on the project, received an executive producer credit. This time around, no DC executives were involved, as when the project was greenlit, DC was in a state of near chaos. It would still be months before James Gunn and Peter Safran were hired to run the division to form DC Studios. Since Phillips' main forte was comedy, Emmerich capped the budget on the first movie at $55 million and brought on co-financiers to mitigate the risk, including Braun and Village Roadshow. Sources tell THR that Alcon, backed by FedEx titan Fred Smith, ultimately put up Village Roadshow's portion and was eager to have a stake in Folie à Deux. The Zaslav regime, however, didn't want to see so much money going out the door and only had one co-financer on the sequel, and it was its slate financing partner, Domain. On Sunday, Warner's didn't attempt to sugarcoat the movie's performance or suggest it had a chance of catching on fire or being rejected by fanboys unless people wanted to go see it because of the hate factor. They also didn't point fingers internally, such as marketing, which can often happen after a movie bombs. It's a huge disaster, but what is the fallout? Who gets the blame? Ask one source. But both Gunn and Phillips have emphasized in recent days that they did not work together on the project, with Gunn answering a question from a fan on social media asking why the DC Studios logo did not appear in front of the movie when the filmmaker exec writing, because it's not a DC Studios film, he went on to add. All future films with DC characters will be DC Studios. There is a DC logo during the credits. That is true. I have seen the movie. Interestingly, and perhaps as a courtesy, Gunn saw the movie at the same time as DeLuca and Abdy, according to a source. Phillips himself has confirmed Gunn and Safran had nothing to do with the movie, saying at a recent screening the attitude was, okay, Todd, did his thing. Let Todd continue to do his thing. Gunn and Safran have a vested interest in distancing themselves from Joker and the bombs of the past few years, especially The Flash, a proper DC title, as they attempt to reset the brand a top priority. Well, isn't that ironic? Because James Gunn came out and said The Flash is one of the best superhero movies he'd ever seen. So there's some irony there. Indeed, they distanced themselves from Folie à Deux almost as soon as they took over as co-heads of the studio. During a presentation for the press in January 2023, they outlined their expensive slate, but noted that Joker 2 would not be under their purview and would exist as an Elseworld title, a designation given to projects that fall outside of the shared universe of movies, TV shows, and video games that they are developing. They are working with the Batman filmmaker Matt Reeves on his sequel, as well as the TV spinoff The Penguin, and other projects in development outside the mainline universe. Regardless of whether Joker 2 is a proper DC title, it is the fifth bomb for a DC character-based film since the hit movie The Batman Bowed in March 22, with recent misses including Black Adam, Shazam! Fury of the Gods, The Flash, and, of course, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. The more modestly budgeted Blue Beetle underperformed last year, but was not an outright bomb. It also got a re-release in theaters a couple weeks ago, too. Gunn and Safran are hoping to right the ship with the Gunn-directed Superman, which arrives in July 2025. This puts more pressure on Superman than ever. Notes a Warner's insider. Oh, of course it does. Some have noted that the film is a very expensive punchline in reputation of the very audience for who showed up for the first movie. Ironically, the ending of the film features a man carving a smile on his face out of focus and slightly off camera. According to one source, the ending of the first movie's original script featured Phoenix's Joker carving his face in a front of a crowd of his supporters, but the Dark Knight filmmaker Christopher Nolan killed that idea, believing that only his Joker should carve his face. But Nolan is no longer at the studio, and thus there was no resistance to the idea this time around. He always trusted his gut, and it's gotten him pretty far. He thought people would get the joke, notes another Warner insider of Phillips. Neither Todd Phillips nor Joaquin Phoenix was even sure about making a sequel, and for a time contemplated putting a Broadway show instead, before ultimately committing to the movie and bringing aboard Gaga in a role inspired by the comic book character Harley Quinn. The idea for the sequel came to Phoenix in a dream, and he and Phillips brought the idea to Emmerich, according to sources. In the end, some are saying that Joker Folie à Deux is a very expensive art film, but when asked for who intended the audience was, one outside source sums it up as this way: for Joaquin. And Boris Kitt, of course, contributed to this story. Well, wow, that is quite the bit to unpack. Okay, so where do we go from here, right? First and foremost, let me preface this, anyone who's seen my review, they know that I like Joker 2. I liked Folie à Deux. Granted, the musical elements didn't quite work for me, and there is a little bit of a continuity mix up there between what Arkham looks like at the end of Joker 1 to Joker 2. But ultimately, like, I walked out of the movie, I was like, oh, I tracked with everything that was happening. I didn't find it dull. I didn't find it soulless. I didn't find it, any of the hyperbolic bullshit that people are spewing about it. But clearly, I think, and I'm probably on the minority about this, but I do think that this film is very misunderstood in terms of like what it was going for. Because I think Todd Phillips was asked, please make a sequel to this $1 billion movie. And he was like, okay, fine. It's almost it's almost a John Carpenter Halloween 2 situation where he was like, oh, okay. And then John Carpenter went, well, fuck, how do I write this movie? And then grabbed a 6-pack and went, okay, I'm going to write this movie. And then proceeded to down the 6-pack and then write the fucking movie. I think Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix went, well, what do we want to do with this movie? And I think immediately the idea was like, oh, well, if the first film has elements of delusion and he's seeing stuff inside his mind playing out as if it's reality, but it's not really the reality, there's that kernel of an idea carried over. But this time it's like, oh, well, what if he sees himself as like kind of an artist, a performer, instead of a comedian? Now he's a fucking musical singer. And it's a bold idea. It's definitely a bold swing. I will give Todd Phillips that. It was a bold choice to give this film musical elements. I don't think the problem exactly lies with Todd Phillips or Joaquin Phoenix or with even fucking Lady Gaga. And I've even seen some criticisms of people saying, oh, Lady Gaga wasn't in the film for enough time. She only had like 30 minutes of screen time. I'm like, are you fucking serious? Really? That's your complaint? The amount of time Lady Gaga had on screen? That's your fucking problem? Anthony Hopkins had 16 minutes of screen time in Silence of the Lambs. Darth Vader has like 10 minutes of screen time in Star Wars. The fucking, it's just like, I don't get it. Like, I tracked with the movie with everything that was going on. The animated opening of the movie pretty much laid out the fucking story that you were going to see. Like, Arthur posited this, like the animated, the Looney Tune inspired cartoon at the beginning of this movie really does lay out for you what the fuck happens in this movie. Like, Arthur is trying to be a performer, but he cannot escape the shadow that is the Joker, who keeps stealing the light. And there's the Joker makeup on the shadow. And it literally culminates at the end of the movie where a dude literally fucking stabs him to death and more or less takes on the mantle of becoming the Joker. And look, I get it if you're a comic book fan and you wanted something akin of like, oh, okay, well, I want to see like how this whole Joker Harley relationship goes. And then you see how manipulative Harley Quinn is in this situation. You're like, no, that's not what I want. I don't know what to tell you, because the first movie kind of lays it out for everybody. Like, no, this is not the story you think it's going to be. This is not, quote, the origin of the Joker. Because guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Come here. There is no definitive origin story for the Joker. If I could drop my mic, I would. Because people seem to be under this impression that this was supposed to be, some kind of setup or some kind of like continuation. It's like, no, this is a story about Arthur Fleck. This is a story about another version of the Joker. This is, if you were to look at this from like a comic book written perspective, this to me reads like the Azzarello Joker story, in which we're not even really, we're seeing the story of the Joker, but we're even seeing it through the eyes of his henchman, Johnny Frost. This is another take in the DC multiverse. And the thing is like, people were just not happy with what they fucking saw. That sucks. That really sucks, because I mean, at the same time, like, was Warner Brothers kind of foolish for being like, yeah, we need to make a sequel to this? Kinda. I mean, it reeks of a little money hungry, because, you had no faith in this movie to begin with. You had Toby Emmerich fucking lowball the budget. And Todd Phillips was like, oh, okay, fine. I'll fucking show you I can make a Joker movie for $55 million. And he did. And then Village Roadshow and Braun got some of the return on that. I can understand why Warner Brothers would go, Todd Phillips, can you please make us a sequel? And Todd was like, how much are you going to pay me? And Warner Brothers did the Warner Brothers thing, and they backed a fucking boatload of money up in front of Todd Phillips' house. And they said, please make us a Joker sequel. And he went, Joaquin, you want to make a Joker sequel? And Joaquin probably went, sure, I have an idea. And thus, Joker Folie à Deux was born. Now, granted, again, as I mentioned, the musical elements of that movie, the big swing of it, the big draw of it, outside of the fact you've got Gaga and Phoenix in the fucking title roles, they don't really work. But I think, again, that's by design. And even Phillips even like mentioned something to the effect of like, no, they're supposed to be singing off key because these are two very damaged individuals, especially Arthur Fleck, who in his mind, you know, he thinks that his reality is what is perceived in his mind. And he's a performer. He's kind of a comedian. He's the Joker. He's this thing he's created for himself. But ultimately, he kind of comes to terms with that at the end of the movie. Like, no, I'm not. I'm really not. Like, this is just something I made up and something I did to justify my horrific cruelty that I did to people who were cruel to me. And it's honestly another, and a buddy of mine, Phil Walsh, him and I are very different on the movie, but I will give him this in that, you know, this film does feel like extra ideas scribbled on a notepad they had for the first film that they were not able to put in the first film. Joker Folie à Deux is more like an epilogue than it is an actual sequel. And I think in that vein, when people were expecting an outright sequel, because I would also say the marketing really failed this movie too, because the marketing really posits this film as like, oh, it's Joker and Harley and they're going mad and it's going to be insane and it's going to be nuts. That's really where the marketing kind of honed in on. The movie's not that at all. The movie is called Joker Folie à Deux. The movie is not called Joker and Harley. There's the distinction right there. But again, I would agree with my buddy Phil Walsh of Phil at the Movies. Go check him out. He really kind of put the movie definitely feels more like an epilogue than it does an actual sequel. To that extent, I do agree. But I also think that what they made for the sequel is very much like, sorry, it's a sequel, yes, but the movie that they made, Joker Folie à Deux, I do think that it is in line with what the first film establishes. And I think if you're looking for something and it's not there, I don't think you're looking in the right spot. But hey, what the fuck do I know, right? Like, clearly I'm in the minority on this movie. I walked out actually being quite surprised and I enjoyed what I saw. I enjoyed the performances. I enjoyed the cinematography. The score was a little bit underwhelming, but not in a really bad way. But I do think the score from the first film hit a lot harder than the one in this film. But that also could be due to the fact that like this film is intercut with some musical cues. And I do think that the big draw of this film is arguably the weakest element of it. And I wouldn't say that the musical cues aren't disjointed. They make it pretty clear that the musical cues are taking place inside his head. And I would even go a step further to say that people wonder where the $200 million budget came. I would say it came from those sets. Look at how expensive and intricate those sets are. Look at all the extras inside those sets. And even in the courtroom too. And even the explosion with a fucking car bomb. Like, I'm not surprised that this is a $200 million movie. I walked out of it going, yeah, I saw it. I saw all of it on screen. Like, yeah, it took nearly the first budget of the first film to pay Joaquin, Todd Phillips, and Lady Gaga. It took the first budget of the first film alone to pay them. That much is abundantly fucking clear. But honestly, between the sets, between the musical, between the licensing for the music that they had to use, I'm not shocked that this movie is $200 million. But again, what the fuck do I know? I'm not a box office analyst. I'm not executive producer. I'm not any of that shit. I know fuck all. I just took a couple film classes in college and I've been watching movies for like 30 fucking years. What the fuck do I know? Anyway, no, I am bummed that the film bombed, but at the same time, it's like, I can kind of understand why it bombed. I see why people may not be fans of this movie. I could kind of understand why some fans feel like Todd Phillips basically went, fuck you. I can kind of understand it, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of hyperbole and people being like, oh, Todd Phillips, you fucking massacred our Joker. What? I'm sorry. What the fuck? That doesn't even make any sense. Do you hear yourself? Like the hyperbolic bullshit about this movie kind of needs to end. I don't jive with that shit. Joker 2 is the new Batman v Superman. Okay. You know what? Here's the thing. The reception of Joker 1 felt a lot like The Dark Knight. The reception of Joker Folie à Deux, yes, it does in a way feel like the reception of Batman v Superman. You went from having one movie completely fucking well-regarded, critical praise, audience love, all of that. And then with this movie, it's complete, utter fucking rejection. Just total boo hiss, no, this is not what we want. It's like, I don't get it at all. We see the origin of the Joker in the comics, but that is just a fake origin the Joker made in his head. We don't really know. Origin of the Joker, that's the fun part about the Joker. And see, I would say that's a fun element about the Joker. To me, the fun part about the Joker is just how fucking batshit insane and unpredictable he is. But that's a whole other conversation here, right? Have you read Absolute Batman yet? Good read. Okay, please, no spoilers. I am waiting on my copy. My copy comes on the 15th. It'll be here Tuesday. I'm also waiting on the first volume of Jonathan Hickman's Ultimate Spider-Man. I will be reading that on tomorrow, actually. That'll be here tomorrow. But yes, I have not read Absolute Batman, but I'm getting my copy of it on Tuesday, and I will be reading it on Tuesday, and I will also be reviewing it for my show, The Eternal Night Podcast, a Batman podcast that I do host on Podbean. Matter of fact, if you are wondering why I haven't talked about the Penguin yet, it's because I talk about it there. If anyone wants to know my thoughts on Penguin episode 2 and 3, by all means, please download the latest episode of The Eternal Night, which I did drop earlier before I started the show. But going back to Joker 2 bombing with 37 million, fucking sucks, man. Like I like the movie. My review is on my channel. If you guys want to go check it out, please, by all means, check it out. If you disagree with me, let me know. Like I am game to civilly discuss this film with people if they love or hate it. What I will not tolerate is just ass backwards nonsense and just blatant fucking bashing of this movie. Like we don't do. Here's a clip for this. Here's the perfect example of why here's what we don't do.
We don't do that here.
We don't do that here. We don't bash movies just for fucking existing. And on top of that, the question posed, did Joker Folie à Deux really need to happen? Was it a sequel that needed to happen? I don't know that I'm the right person to answer that question, but I'll just say that, like, was it necessary? No. Am I glad it was made? Yes. Because honestly, I could see a scenario where you could see the story of Arthur Fleck kind of continue maybe in a different direction, not necessarily the direction that Todd Phillips took it, but at the same time, it's like, this is what Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix wanted to do. They had an idea of this character in a musical sense, in a musical setting, and they expanded on it in a movie form. And they, if the first film is the how this Joker came to be, Joker Folie à Deux is the why this Joker came to be. And then at the end, he gets his comeuppance. And that's the best way I can say it personally. Again, I'm kind of bummed it did bomb because it sucks. And when a comic book film, regardless of how close it is to continuity or not from the source material, when a comic book movie fails, that's not good for everyone else. And it's actually pretty telling when you have a film like Deadpool and Wolverine gain and garner over $1 billion, love, praise, you name it, and then you've got like Joker Folie à Deux, which just completely falls flat on its face. And everyone's just like, well, fuck, that sucked. I don't think it sucked. I liked both comic book films from DC and Marvel this year. I can say that with confidence. But at the same time, it's like, the reality is like this movie is not performing well. It's even tracking lower this weekend upcoming against Terrifier 3, which I will probably see on Saturday for the record. So if there is another movie review to come from me, it might be Terrifier 3. I will hopefully see that movie on Saturday. But we're not done with the Joker talk. You want to know why? Here's why. Jared Leto apparently tried to get the Joker film canceled. What? Let's check this out. This will be the last thing we talk about before I sign off. Ah, crap. God damn it. Okay, now I'm just going to have to fucking... Oh, there we go. Okay, thankfully it's already in my history. Okay, cool. All right. Perfect. All right, here we go. You've got to stop this. Jared Leto fumed over new Joker movie. Jared Leto, who played the character in Suicide Squad, felt alienated and upset when Warner Brothers greenlit the Todd Phillips Joker movie. And this was written by Kim Masters, whom I love. Kim Masters. She writes a lot of intricate and concrete articles. She gets her facts right. She's got a lot of great sources, so I will give her the benefit of the doubt. But at the same time, I can't really necessarily blame Jared Leto for being kind of burned by this whole thing happening. So just how unhappy was Jared Leto over Joker? As Todd Phillips' dark take on the villain looks likely to gross more than $700 million worldwide, sources tell The Hollywood Reporter that Leto's frustration that Warner Brothers was moving ahead with Phillips' project was so great early on that he tried to throttle the rival Joker in its cradle. And this is an article from October 19th of like 4 or 5 years ago. So this is an oldie, but it's starting to make the rounds again in wake of Joker Folio Do failing. According to sources familiar with Leto's behavior, when the Oscar-winning learned of the Phillips project, he's not only complained bitterly to his agents at CAA, who also represents Phillips, but asked his music manager, Irving Azov, to call the leader of Warner Brothers' parent company. It's unclear whether it was Time Warner's Jeff Bukes or AT&T Randall Stevenson, depending on the timing. The idea was to get Warner to kill the Phillips film. A source in Leto's camp denies that the actor made this request, and Azov did not comment. Azov and Leto have since parted ways. THR previously reported that the 47-year-old star who played the grinning crime lord in the 2016 Suicide Squad thought Warner's had strung him along with promises of his own Joker standalone film, only to greenlight the Phillips version with Joaquin instead. Ironically, Warner's thought the Phillips project would be a small movie, and nervous about its dark tone, greenlit the pick reluctantly with a small budget that some of the studio hoped would discourage Phillips from making it. Warner's declined to comment. Leto had put a lot of effort into his Suicide Squad version of the DC villain with rotting teeth, bloodshot eyes, and slicked back neon green hair. He spent months getting into character and terrifying his castmates with gifts, such as a live rat to Harley Quinn actress Margot Robbie, bullets to Deadshot actor Will Smith, and a dead pig to the entire cast during rehearsal. Turns out the studio wasn't thrilled with these efforts, says a source with knowledge of the situation. It seems the director wasn't that pleased with the resulting performance. In the final cut of David Ayer's ensemble anti-hero movie, Leto's Joker got only about 10 minutes of screen time while promoting the project. Leto, who had been billed as the lead character, spoke to media about how much footage of his Joker had been cut. In his defense, it was never really his movie, but his attempt to invent a place for himself, and it backfired, says a source involved with the situation. Leto's representatives say the actor is still unhappy with working with Warner Bros. Notes he's currently shooting John Lee Hancock's Little Things along with Rami Malek and Denzel Washington. I did see that because that was part of the Project Popcorn slate of release for day and date Max and theaters. Meanwhile, Leto's unhappiness over the Phillips project seems to have helped him end an already strained relationship between Leto and CAA. It just kind of goes on to go over that shit. But I think it's also important to note that this is an outdated article, and it has since been come to light that David Ayer did not have final cut on Suicide Squad. That was taken away from him. He had to reshoot stuff from pages written by Jeff Johns, and they cut out a whole bunch of shit, including Jared Leto's initial performance. So that much is already abundantly clear. But I can kind of understand being a little bit bitter and frustrated that, hey, you know, Warner Brothers promised me this Joker film with Harley possibly, and then they turn around and greenlight that. They greenlit Joker, and then Joker gets this fucking big pay raise. Like, it gets a big fucking win at the box office, right? Like, it's insanity. Pure fucking insanity. Let's see. I love how Joker, it's just as bad, batshit crazy person. That's why I'm so excited to see what Matt Reeves does with the Joker. Me too. Hey, Draven's in the chat. What's up, dude? Hope stream's going well. It is. It's going pretty well, even though we're about to wrap shit up. And I think people are taking way too far, saying Joker 2 is the worst film of the year. For me, taking it way too far. Okay, I'm glad you brought that up too, because like, again, and just kind of wrap up this little bit about it, Jared Leto apparently tried to getting it canceled. This is fucking old news, and I would have to imagine like being one for creativity, I don't think he'd outright try and get it canceled. I think that's probably exaggerated, even though I do kind of trust Kim Masters from a terms of, you know, getting her sourcing and whatnot. But I do think that there's some bitterness on his end in regards to getting a Joker film and then having it taken away from him and having another one made immediately, especially after so closely after Suicide Squad. But also, like, I don't think it's the worst film of the year. It's definitely not the worst comic book film of the year. For me, that's easily Madam Web. Madam Web is without question like the worst comic book film of 2024. And it's unfortunate because I do feel like there is a better movie somewhere in the editing room, somewhere in the cutting room floor that Sony just hacked to shit and reshot and fucking dubbed over for whatever goofy ass reason. They royally fucked that movie for no good reason at all. But I do think that Joker Folio Do is nowhere near the train wreck that Madam Web is. I completely disagree with that. I don't agree that it has a D cinema score. I think that's that's a real stretch in my opinion. So I don't know. I don't really agree with a lot of the backlash that's going on towards Joker right now, and I think it's just unfortunate. I do feel like that film is very misunderstood in a lot of respects. I feel like there's a lot more to it than what people are just looking at on the surface, but that's just me. Would you rather see a Joker 3 or a Madam Web 2? Neither. I would rather see neither be made. I would rather Sony and Warner Brothers and DC divert those funds to other projects that maybe have a chance at being better gambles. Because it's pretty clear neither one of those projects is happening. But other than that, I think that kind of wraps it up, everyone. I would like to thank everyone who stopped in for the stream. Of course, Braden, Daryl, you guys have always been, for the last 9 episodes I've been doing this, you guys have been constant. So thank you again for stopping in. Andy, my editor, much love, brother. Thank you for stopping in. The main man, thank you. Droga, as always, thank you for stopping in and saying hi. Draven, Chillmonger, thank you guys for stopping in and providing, input in the chat. Greatly appreciate it. You guys can watch my stuff. Feel free to like and subscribe, hit that notification bell. Much appreciated. Helps my shit get noticed. Helps, just helps the algorithm and whatnot. By all means, listen to the latest episode of The Eternal Night where I talk about the Penguin episode 2 and 3. I don't really go into too much massive detail, but I do just kind of posit my thoughts on those 2 final episodes, or not 2 final episodes, but the 2 latest episodes. And like I said, I'm probably going to see Terrifier 2 tomorrow, so I'll probably maybe do a review on that. Hopefully I'll be on the vodka stream later tonight if Dave is having one, so that'll be cool too. And of course, feel free to hop on over to multiverseofcolor.com. You guys can read my latest review of Superman and Lois. I will again be reviewing that for the next 8 weeks when that show runs its final course. But yeah, thanks for everyone tuning in. As always, stay safe, take care, much love, and all, do the thing. Do that thing. Do that thing. Please do that thing. I'd greatly appreciate it. Anyway. Much love, everyone. Take care. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Bye.